President Buhari engages key players on combating desertification as climate change conference underway in Glasgow.
Inter-agency rescue operations continue at site of building collapse in Ikoyi, Lagos.
Nigerian military launches another joint operation codenamed Skylock.
This culture is indeed essential to the development of the operational level capacity towards tackling the multifarious contemporary security challenges.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall start our conversation on Anambra 2021 governorship elections.
With less than 5 days to the Anambra State governorship election, political parties and other candidates intensify electioneering campaigns to woo electorate to vote for them.
Now, the campaigns by the 18 candidates contesting the election would appear to be low-key compared to previous polls. But of course, the campaigns have heightened as election day draws nearer.
And in spite of the security challenge in the southeast region and the threat by the proscribed IPOB, the electioneering campaigns are still ongoing as the political parties are holding rallies in the 21 local government areas of the state.
Now, the political parties have also devised ways of pushing their electoral messages in view of the attacks on some political gatherings by unknown gunmen, thereby creating tension among the over 2 million registered voters who, of course, are expected to discharge their civic obligation on Saturday.
And as the candidates prepare to round off their campaigns, what are the likely issues that dominate this year's electioneering campaigns in Anambra State governorship election?
And in line with Good Morning Nigeria's tradition, we are taking on some of the governorship candidates to highlight their manifestos and, of course, address other issues ahead of the November 6th election. This, of course, will include the state's economy, the politics, and security. It's Good Morning Nigeria, and I'm Kingsley Osadola, welcoming you to the program.
And I am Kieran Umai, also welcoming you to Good Morning Nigeria today, broadcast live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're also expecting to have the APGA candidate, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, to join us in the course of the conversation.
Well, we have our complimentary segments, including newspaper review and business. For now, here is our colleague, Tessie Omeri. I'll skip her nickname this morning. Tessie, should I say it again to our audience? Tessie, testing the mic.
Yes,
Omeri.
And mic well tested. Good morning, Kingsley and Kieran. Good morning, Nigeria. And here is the morning news. Issues relating to desertification, loss of biodiversity, and negative impact of climate change on the Lake Chad region dominated discussions as President Muhammadu Buhari engaged the Executive Secretary of United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw. This was on the margins of the Climate Change Conference now underway in Glasgow, Scotland. President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged Nigeria's unalloyed commitment towards expanding the achievements of the Great Green Wall program in Africa. Speaking at the high-level side event of the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Scotland, the president expressed optimism that Africa's ambition of restoring over 100 million hectares of degraded landscape for productive agriculture is achievable.
As the effort to make available the financial resources already pledged by financial partners is still ongoing, Nigeria has taken further steps by approaching other technical partners for support. The partners include the Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Development Program, Global Environment Facility, with whom Nigeria is holding discussions on resource mobilization for ecosystem restoration.
And away from Glasgow, federal government has urged Nigerian youths to continue to seek the path of self-actualization with a promise that the administration will continue to support their efforts by creating an environment that enables the fulfillment of their dreams. President Muhammadu Buhari said this at the maiden National Youth Conference held in Abuja.
There's no more golden time than the present that you're in, so seize it. Progress is not made by looking back, but by looking ahead. Your generation has been gifted with so many tools and opportunities. You are at the most developed time in the history of the world. You are at the most developed time in the history of technology in the world.
An interagency rescue operation is ongoing to evacuate victims who are still trapped under the rubble of a collapsed building at 47 Gerrard Street in Ikoyi, Lagos.
The managing director, they were inside here doing meeting with some mopos because some of the guys are inside here too. Penta, electrician, plumber, Macy, they are inside here.
3 people have been rescued alive, and so far 5. 5 have been confirmed dead.
And now on security matters, the Nigerian military has launched the maiden edition of the Defense Headquarters Joint Operations Planning Exercise codenamed Skylark. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa, who was at the Army War College, Abuja, venue of the event, tells us the essence of the exercise in the quest to secure the nation.
Conduct of this joint operations planning exercise is yet another milestone to promote understanding and collaboration not only between the colleges but also to enhance jointness in our armed forces as a whole.
This culture is indeed essential to the development of the operational level capacity towards tackling the multifarious contemporary security challenges and engagements in future military operations.
The First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, reaffirms her continued support to improving the education of women, youths, children, and other vulnerable groups in the country. The First Lady stated this in a message during the inauguration of the Future Assured College in Maiduguri, Borno State.
It was this despair that triggered my emotions to establish the school of this nature.
Today's event is yet another breakthrough in the provision of education for school-aged children, especially the internally displaced persons, IDPs, and orphan children.
And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Kieran after this break. Thanks for watching.
COVID-19, that is the black swan of the century, has actually hit the whole world very hard, even the strongest of economies, and Nigeria was not spared. But due to the proactive stance and steps that the president has taken, we've been able to come out quickly. The president has consistently said we must invest in infrastructure, even as we're investing in human capital, that we must invest in infrastructure, because at the end of the day, that is what will bring about a sustainable economic growth. So the president has given us our directive. He has said you must make sure you pay salaries and pay pensions, but you also make sure that the critical projects of roads, railway, airports, bridges, major infrastructure that are meant to drive the growth of the economy, that we consistently invest in them, even if we have to continue to borrow to do so.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The broadcast media ecosystem is dynamic and requires continuous training for practitioners to perform optimally. NTA TV College JOS invites relevant officers to the following specially packaged training programs. Transmitter operation and maintenance. Date 1st November to 5th November 2021. 1 week. Photojournalism and photography. Date 8th November to 26th November 2021. 3 weeks. Advanced broadcast accounting and auditing. Date 22nd November to 3rd December 2021. 2 weeks. The course fee for the 3-week course is 130,000 naira per participant, while the fee for the 2-week course and 1-week engineering course is 100,000 naira only per participant. Accommodation inclusive. The venue for all courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-43830 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Chelsea will be hoping to continue a hat-trick of victories against teams in the relegation zone when they welcome Burnley to Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed this Saturday? It's Chelsea versus Burnley on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now let's go business. Promoting the activities of micro, small and medium enterprises is central to the nation's economic recovery process and the pandemic. Details with Comfort Amodu on Business News.
Micro, small and medium enterprises are the bedrock for nation building and national inclusive recovery. This resonated at the Made in Aba Trade Fair. The 8th edition of the Made in Aba Trade Fair is a collaborative effort between Sweden and National Assembly, which is a flagship promotion program of the agency. Sweden says the fair is a major tool for promoting, marketing, networking and platform for cross-fertilization of ideas for promotion of homemade goods and services.
On the supply side, the fair also gives the agency the opportunity to access capabilities of MSMEs to enable us design the need-based intervention program.
For 1 week, things that are made locally will be showcased.
This year's theme for Made in Aba Fair is harnessing business opportunities beyond COVID-19 drawbacks. In the capital market, the bears appeared on Monday, driving old share index down to 41,976.79 points, 378 million shares exchanged hands in 6,384 deals valued at 3.2 billion naira. Equity capitalization ended the day at 2.1 trillion naira. Mutual Benefits, UB and FBN Holdings were the most active stocks. With Business News, Comfort Amodu.
Many thanks, Comfort Amodu, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us is Newspaper Review.
And here we have Bayo Atoyebi, our newspaper reviewer. Bayo, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley.
Right,
good
Bayo,
morning,
good
Nigeria.
To see you too. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's begin with the leadership newspaper. Federal government borrows 8.29 trillion naira from 12.9 trillion pension fund. It has a rider to that crowds out private sector. That's page 7. The lead story is on COVID-19. 10 months after, federal government yet to release 10 billion naira for vaccine production. For riders, government paying lip service to local vaccine production. Health Ministry keeps mum. Pharmacists decry impact of Forex on CBN Intervention Fund. We are ready to work with pharma sector for local drug production, according to the National Assembly. The story is on page 4. Now, the photo story on the front page of Leadership newspaper is that of the collapsed 21-story building at Gerard Road, Ikoyi, Lagos, yesterday. And there are stories on the right-hand side of the paper. Orderly, senators protest, IGP orders probe, it's on page 7. Atiku, PDP leaders in Anambra ahead of poll, that's on page 11. Army debunks occupation mission in Southeast, it's on page 8. Editors seek safe, enabling environment for journalists, that's on page 8. Score strapped, 7 confirmed dead as 21-story building collapses in Lagos. Details on page 4 of Leadership newspaper. Now, Plateau Assembly crisis, impeached speaker, 10 others arrested. That's on page 7 of the newspaper. Kingsley.
Thank you, Kieran. Let's also take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation has the photograph from the scene of the building collapse yesterday at Ikoyi in Lagos. And there are 2 photographs there, Red Cross officials and others evacuating victims from the building. And then you can see the pancaked rubble at the construction site. Now, further in collapse 22, that's what the Nation is writing, 22-story Ikoyi Lagos building. That's at Gerard. I've seen different spellings of Gerard Road, particularly in the social media. The correct spelling of that Gerard is RD, not LD. El-Rufai inaugurates 16th council chairman, that's page 27. Governors can't control PDP, details on page 6. And then right above the nameplate now, that's from top now. IG orders probe of siege to Justice Ojuli's Abuja home. Depot owners raise petrol liter price by 9 naira. Pengassan cautions. Buhari, Biden, and others seek end to carbon emissions. Elumelu, we've trained 1.5 million Africans. Anambra 2021, Uba, Soludo, Ozigbo call for dialogue with IPOB. 76,104 voters risk no voting. Iwayang, Indigbo will lose if poll is disrupted. And the lead story says with a kicker, minister, government owes 774,000 jobs beneficiaries, 7.3 billion naira. Bank issues to blame, says Kayamo. That's one rider. Another says payment will be before year end. Fracas at Plateau House of Assembly over Speaker's sack. Lawmakers arrested. Ayo.
Thank you, Kingsley. Let's start with the story about multiple-story building that collapsed at about 3 p.m. yesterday at Ikoyi in Lagos. The 21-story building is feared to have about 50 persons trapped under its rubble. Rescue operations saw 4 persons rescued alive, and initially 3 bodies were recovered. The general manager of Lagos State Building Control Agency, Mr. Bola Haoki, says that the owner of was given approval for 15 floors, but he went on to build 21 floors. It is also observed that the material used and the reinforcement were said to be inferior and terrible. Mr. Oki says that, I think he has been locked down. He has been arrested before now. Rescue work has commenced. 4 machines were brought in and they worked all overnight at number 20 Gerard Road to rescue the people that were trapped. Some persons said that they received calls from some of the people who are trapped in the rubble, calling them that they are there still trapped. The Punch reports that by this morning, Punch reports that 10 persons were feared dead. Among those trapped in the rubble is the managing director of the 4 Square Heights, the owner of the building. He was said to be on the 18th floor with some clients who had come to inspect the building for purposes of transaction. Many bricklayers are speculated to be about 30 in number among those that are feared trapped. Some of the workers trapped were said to have arrived the site from Abuja. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has ordered a probe, and he has promised that the findings will be made public. The Inspector General of Police has ordered an investigation into Friday raid of the residence of the Odilis at Maitama. Inspector General of Police Usman Baba has directed the Force Intelligence Bureau to investigate the incident with a view to bringing the perpetrators to account. The Punch reports that the complement of policemen and EFCC operatives are alleged to have stormed the Odilis' home on the strength of an identified whistleblower who also claimed to have observed suspicious activities at the residence. The Chief Magistrate identified has approved a search warrant by the body identified as Joint Panel Recovery Unit, purporting to be acting from the Ministry of Justice. The economic and financial...
sorry, I would like you to expatiate on this. Let me and other Nigerians understand. All right. I don't know about the hierarchical arrangement of the judiciary. Can a chief magistrate, give a search warrant for a justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria to search his or her residence? I don't understand that. And again, IGP, calling for probe, does it mean that he wouldn't be in the know of such a level of, a search for such a person of that status?
Well, first of all, that was where I was going. The EFCC says it didn't order its operative to be involved in it. The Inspector General of Police, the Police High Command, says its officers were not detailed to carry out such operation. The Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, says it does not have such an office in his office, and therefore the Attorney General has also said that whoever is involved should be investigated and brought to book. But coming on the issue of the warrant, as a layman, maybe Kingsley will be able to give us a proper advice. As a layperson, I think when there is suspicion and security agencies are to carry out a search, they can approach the court for a warrant. They don't have to state the designation or the personality whose residence they are going to search. They only have to provide evidence that for suspicious ground, they want a warrant.
Supreme Court Justice, serving Supreme Court Justice?
There are conflicting perspectives to that. Some are saying that the residence the search was in respect of Mr. Peter Odili, and Mr. Peter Odili and Mrs. Odili live in the same place. So while some are saying that it was to search the resident of justice, others are saying it's to search Peter Odili. So, but Kingsley probably will have the legal perspective.
I think the gravamen of Kirian's question is answerable by the simple saying that no one is above the law. The only persons who have immunity in the meantime by the provisions of Section 308 of the Constitution, the President, Vice President, 36 governors, and deputy governors. So, Kirian, to answer your question, a magistrate can issue a warrant in appropriate circumstances for the search of any person or the premises of any individual. But the curiosity in this case has to do with the many aberrations in the search warrant that was issued and how the search warrant itself was procured. The latest statement by the Office of the Inspector General that their men were not on such official duties would seem to suggest that the officers who went there, assuming they were truly officers of the Nigerian police, were on what we normally would refer to as illegal duty.
Illegal duty, exactly.
So who procured them for that illegal duty? Yeah. And those men who were there, with the names that they have indicated, have they been arrested now?
Well, so far, it has been identified that there's a chief superintendent of police who was involved. He has been identified, along with some elements that are believed to be operatives of the EFCC working under what they describe Force Intelligence Bureau is now assigned to investigate and get the facts about it.
Yeah,
be that as it may.
I'm sorry, the other story, just before we get pressed for time, the tragedy that occurred in Ikoyi in Lagos, we know that you have massive construction work going on in and around different parts of Lagos. This is a high-rise structure, and the fatalities are mounting. It's a big tragedy that has occurred in that otherwise a quiet part of Lagos. This is a highbrow part of Lagos, where you have the most expensive real estate in the country. Now, my greater concern would be twofold. One is how original Ikoyi master plan or layout has been bastardized in the last 25, 30 years. If you drove from Osborn through Gerrard, through Alexander, through Bodilon, right up to Falamo roundabout, it was a salubrious neighborhood. And all of a sudden, high rise everywhere, high rise. In Ikoyi, and I've asked the question before, where is the support infrastructure for these high-rise structures that are springing up all over the place? And as you have said, approval was given for 15 floors. You climbed up to 21 floors. And there is also a statement, a letter circulating on the social media by a consultant structural engineer who decided, on account of what was observed in the course of the construction, to resign from the project, and said they could guarantee, they had supervised the other wings in the past, they could guarantee up to the first 5 floors, but thereafter, since they didn't have any say in the strength of materials or in approving the strength of materials, they were resigning. So they left the project side. Now, the other question would be, and I'm sure you also refer to that, where were the statutory supervisors? If a construction work is going on, you are supposed to go from time to time and avoid this kind of catastrophe.
No, not in Nigeria, for now, just as you pointed out, that the area is supposed to be a highbrow area in Lagos, and for you to begin to have a high rising springing up in those areas, somebody approved it, an authority approved it. The state government has a designated agency that's responsible for approvals for construction work.
Periodic visit to the construction
exactly,
sites.
and for the structural designer, whoever it was, resigned, in the course of the building. And it shows that there's something wrong.
It was compromised.
Exactly. It was so. The idea is that, look, we should begin to think reasonably in this country when we want to embark on such projects. And we've been having series of collapse of buildings here and there. And Lagos, for instance, of course, Lagos is like, is an area where if you are doing any such construction, you have to be fortified.
Seriously, because it's a coastal area and very close to the sea, and the level of the sea is very low there. Anyway, two quick other stories.
They were usually on Lagos Island itself. You normally have these old structures that collapse from time to time, and then you also have emergency construction that goes on. You want to build 3 stories for traders overnight, and then the building normally will come down. But this is supposed to, I don't know, it's of but just go ahead.
Two other stories now. On the Plateau State House of Assembly, 12 lawmakers loyal to the post-speaker Ayuba Abok gathered at the State House of Assembly. They were demonstrators against them at the assembly. Later on, they were encouraged to leave so that peace could prevail. The new speaker also gathered later on, Yakubu Sanda, with his people, and they held their second plenary session. There are also demonstrators that were against them. The Commissioner of Police, Edward Ebuka, had actually intervened and prevailed on the lawmakers to disperse. It's not true, as reported in the papers, that they were arrested.
Okay, Bayo, at the time cannot allow us to continue. I know you have other items for review this morning, but let's call it a day on newspaper review for today. You're going to return tomorrow, as always, for further analysis of what the papers are saying in this country. So, Bayo, thank you for being here this morning. Hope to see you again tomorrow. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and today we're looking at a very important topic. It's Anambra governorship election campaigns, and that will be after the break.
The broadcast media ecosystem is dynamic and requires continuous training for practitioners to perform optimally. NTA TV College Jos invites relevant officers to the following specially packaged training programs. Transmitter operation and maintenance. Date 1st November to 5th November 2021. 1 week. Photojournalism and photography. Date 8th November to 26th November 2021. 3 weeks. Advanced broadcast accounting and auditing. Date 22nd November to 3rd December 2021. 2 weeks. The course fee for the 3-week course is 130,000 naira per participant, while the fee for the 2-week course and 1-week engineering course is 100,000 naira only per participant, accommodation inclusive. The venue for all courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-43830 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Chelsea will be hoping to continue a hat-trick of victories against teams in the relegation zone when they welcome Burnley to Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed this Saturday? It's Chelsea versus Burnley on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
Thank you for staying with us, and of course, welcome back. With barely 4 days to the governorship election in Anambra State, political parties and candidates participating in that election have intensified their campaigns to woo electorates to vote for them. Ekene Ndulue has this report to serve as a prompt for our discussion this morning.
It is countdown to the off-cycle governorship election in Anambra State, and as expected, the intrigues are playing out to the fullest. From litigations, cross-carpetings to accusations and counter-accusations. With just 4 days to the November 6 elections, there are fears from citizens rising from the current security threats in the area. To ensure peaceful conduct of the election, the Inspector General of Police overhauled the security landscape of the state and also announced the deployment of 34,587 security personnel to ensure peace during the polls. The Independent National Electoral Commission has also stated its readiness as umpire for the governorship election. Bearing unforeseen situations, the aftermath of November 6 will see the emergence of a new governor in Anambra, as the incumbent is nearing the end of his second term and cannot seek re-election. The choice before the people are 18 candidates from 18 political parties. The outcome of the election is expected to be influenced by a lot of factors, including incumbency, voter turnout, and zoning. As last-minute politicking intensifies, the candidates are taking their campaigns to the people with promises of what they intend to offer the state. On this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, we shall be looking at the campaigns of some of the candidates.
All right, thank you very much, Ekene Ndulue, for that backgrounder. We have one of the governorship candidates joining us at this time. Another will join us, of course, on the course of the program. Dr. Obiora Okonkwo, who is governorship candidate of the Zenith Labour Party, is joining us via Zoom from Oka, the capital of Anambra. Candidate Okonkwo, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Well, good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, and then with us in the studios to provide analysis to the issues, we have Dr. Ernest Ereke, is of the Political Science Department at the University of Abuja. Dr. Ereke, pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, you're welcome. Dr. Okonkwo, it's good to have you on the program. You're one of the 18 candidates contesting for the governorship election in Anambra State. And of course, we've had the stories with respect to how the campaigns have been going on for some weeks now. Let us know how the electioneering campaign is going in the midst of uncertainty, of course, triggered by attacks here and there on rallies in Anambra State. How is it going?
Well, thank you for having me once more. It's going well, with lots of apprehension and a little bit of fear here and there. This, at the end of this election, obviously, requires a new study, because it has brought in a new dimension in the electioneering campaign. Usually, the Anambra campaign used to be with a lot of fanfares and open outdoor public space activities. But with this whole issue going around us in security, then one had to look at other areas. Some of them are quite innovative, some of them are new, but some have always been there, like social media, robot calls, text messages. But it has actually also brought to fore a very important aspect of campaign, which is house to house, ear to ear, people to people. We're taking advantage of all those possibilities that we have been forced to use within these circumstances. Besides that, few days to the election has to take place. We pray that the result should be that of God's will.
Well, Dr. Okonkwo, against the backdrop of the unique electioneering that is ongoing in Anambra, is there a sense of expectation? That's to say that E-Day is on Saturday and voters are eager to cast their ballot. Is there a sense of anticipation or expectation?
Well, honestly speaking, the voters were really in full spirit before these recent events and happenings. They were prepared to go take their destiny in their hands. They have been sensitized well enough to know that this election has a lot to do with their future. It has a lot to do with the future of their children and the next generation. And they have also seen how much we have lost in the last 16 years in the hands of ABGA, and we are really, really willing and ready to go show that the power really belongs to the people. But in the present circumstances, I can honestly tell you that the mood here is with a little bit of tension. Even it's good that we have enough security personnel around, but that itself comes with some kind of concerns, some kind of fears. But by and large, we are hoping that in the days to come, the tension will continue to calm down. But Anambra has been a state with some high level of voter apathy, which do come from time to time as a result of internal selection process, where people would be looking forward to voting for one candidate or the other. And for some unknown reason, the godfathers who have enshrined their trade and their act in Anambra politics would tweak things the other way. And then that really affects the people's morale and their enthusiasm to participate in the election process. But with this in itself has repeated itself. And also sometimes, because of what has happened here, in the past when PDP was in the center, and then they don't have state government here. General elections usually are determined even while the election is going on. So people would ordinarily say, well, what does it matter? My vote would even count anyway. So they stay at home. That's why you do have over 2.5 registered voters. And at the end of the day, from the available statistics, we have about 500,000 people casting altogether. That's about 25%. It has not really been good, but those were the things my research team had seen from the beginning. And we started working on a different, really, voters population that we thought we were going to pull into the pool until, the internal selection process dilemma again started befalling on most of the political parties. First, my humble self in PDP, and secondly, other things you already have, the stories, and then again, anger and rage is going on in the minds of people. I hope they will again sustain a little bit of the level of enthusiasm and come really express themselves and their anger in the polling booth. And I hope when that is done, it will favor my humble self and my party, Zeni Labour Party, which is the last party on the ballot box. And the outcome, obviously, will be the game changer for Anambra State.
Okay, Dr. Okonkwo, we'll just pause you for a while and introduce other guests here in the studio who just joined us. Awal Musa Rafsanjani, Chairman, Transition Monitoring Group, TMG. It's a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Program. Okay, let's return to you, Dr. Okonkwo. Anambra is a very peculiar state. It's one of the richest states in the southeast of Nigeria, yet it's also a state where we have a depth of infrastructure. It's also a state where we cannot boast of a clear-cut education system. And I know that you have been promising Anambrians what you are going to offer as, if you clinch the position of governor of that state after the election. Now let us into some of those promises you have been telling the Anambrians you are going to fulfill if eventually you clinch that position. What are the promises and what has been the reaction of Anambrians whom you have contact with respect to your mission and vision for that state?
Well, you are right by talking the great things about Anambra State. But unfortunately and sadly, I can tell you that those were in the past. We are living in nostalgia because that our beloved state that has been blessed with everything to make a great nation and great people, it's just a shadow of its own past. Infrastructures are just like non-existent. Economy is almost just comatose. There is frustration. The active, productive, working population are all in diaspora. And then a little bit of very, very help on those who cannot help themselves are here struggling to make a living. And that just every day bewitched by the APGA government in terms of revenue. In fact, I met my first civilization in our nature. That was the place moving from my village. I saw electricity for the first time. I saw born water in a house through sanitary use for the first time. So Onitsha was our own London those days. But today, if you say you are living in Onitsha, people will be looking at you with such a pity. Oh, You are not in the league of those who have just evacuated the place. That's unfortunate. Having studied all those problems with my own practical experience, knowledge of the environment across the state, we've come up with a 10-point agenda. And that's the message we've been taking around through the crooks and corners of Anambra State. We've said it loudly. Anambra requires a shock therapy. The situation where we are now, it doesn't require a governor who is coming to learn on the job. It requires somebody who is coming to hit the ground running with a very clear, practical, people-oriented 10-point agenda, which we put together out of our common sense. It's not a typical election rhetoric. And this 10-point agenda are things we've been engaged in doing in my own private life capacity, my own micro level, and in my own position as an entrepreneur who has been blessed abundantly by God. But having looked at all those things, we're just looking for the governorship as a platform to be able to do that in a macro capacity. And that has to do with issues like rapid rural development. We have seen that the local government administration is non-existent. The last time unemployment was done in our local government area was 2002. No single person has been employed. No local government election. All the resources go to the states and they use for their friends, their cronies, their pockets. We looked at economic growth with jobs. Economic activities is very, very low because the state is not properly funded. We are still in a budget level of about 120 billion naira at this time and age for a state like Anambra State with great potentials. That is not acceptable. And that's why we have looked at it and think that a whole lot of other things we have surrounding our 10-point agenda has to do with funding. And we've located, identified, discussed, negotiated a source where the funding will come as a direct foreign investment. It will come in ways of industrialization, technology transfer, infrastructural development, and we're talking about Russia. Russia has brought the biggest technological investment into Nigeria. In fact, Africa as a whole, in a place like Ajokuta State, they're still going to do it. They're available to help us. I've discussed in the highest level. And don't forget, today we're embracing China in and out. But China started their technological revolution with Russia when they were close to the whole world and nobody was entering China. It was with Russia. So now the African market is very important to them. Recently, Russia has acquired the highest, one of the biggest share capital in Afrexim Bank as a window to Africa. We've set up Nigeria-Russia Chamber of Commerce and Industries, which should be a platform for a whole lot of activities. So we think with this coming in, we will be able to resurrect certain business activities, providing infrastructures, providing utilities that is required to facilitate and move it. Yes, we know today people are talking about security. Security really, Anambra is supposed to be a peaceful state due to our culture, our values. We know those things are deteriorating. But I've said several in places I've been that security for me should not be an issue. I sleep, wake up, and breathe security. That's my business. You might not know how much I'm involved in it, both in the federal and even in the state, what is happening. We have the solution. We have the ideas. For me, if I am elected the governor on November 6th, within that week, everything will come to an end. And this is just practically because people who are involved will see hope. Frustration and hopelessness is the reason for this. These people have seen what we're coming up with, and that will actualize if at all we're given opportunity. And then we have looked at the issue of youth power development and employment. When we say we're going to do this, we're doing it every day. Today alone, in the next few hours, my foundation and my company will be signing 3 MOU with University of Anambra State University in Oka. We're signing a MOU in areas of providing scale for youths from the mechanical department going for internship in my United Nigeria Line company. We're signing a MOU where I'm sponsoring some research and production of certain feeds for the stockfish feed with the university department. We're signing a MOU for exchange of programs with university and Russian university. And last 2 weeks, we presented a research with the business department of that university, the MBA class, a grant which I gave to study the reasons for the dwindling fortune of our entrepreneurship, which we were known for, what was called Eba Boy, which became the apprenticeship in English, which has become the biggest venture capital in the whole world. They made a study, we presented, we know what the issues are, and we continue to deal with these as soon as we get into the place and opportunity provides for it. We have identified also in our 10-point agenda the need for diaspora engagement. Greatest population active and productive of Anambra State, they are living outside the shores of Anambra State, especially those who are living beyond the Nigerian borders. They are a great resource for our future hope and development. We are creating a special Ministry of Diaspora and Affairs.
Dr. Obiora,
to engage these people too.
Dr. Obiora Okonkwo, let's interject here. Something you said while reading out aspects of your manifesto, I found very interesting. That if you are elected on Saturday, the 6th of November, within 1 week, in your words, all these challenges, particularly with regard to security challenges, will be over. It appears, therefore, you have the silver bullet to solve the issues. And if that is so, I'm sure Anabrarians and other Nigerians will be interested in knowing where the magic bullet is coming from.
Well, you see, a governor should be a governor for all, a governor for both the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've always said that you can't be in a position of relevance and influence in a place like Anambra State without engaging. My intelligence department, we've gathered all the information. We know where the problems are coming from. Obviously, the escalated problem today is just nothing else but politics. It's been identified, and I'm sure we're working together with the security agencies. They know there are some people with political interests who are trying to turn the state into some kind of pathetic situation for them to get their way. So these recent escalations, obviously, unarguably, they are political. And as soon as the politics is over, then I'm sure that will go with it. Then you face the other phase of which could be the issue of agitation. And then those agitations are coming out of certain frustrations, out of certain hopelessness, and they are looking for somebody who will give them hope. Then the other area are those who are genuinely either not political or agitation, but they have no other thing to do. They turn into criminal activities. Honestly, everybody wants to live good, live happily, and don't get into problems. So our election will bring hope to those people. And I can tell you on the other areas of agitation, those you know, I've said without fear that I would just seek appointment to see Mr. President, and I'll put on the table for him 3 options I have to bring that situation to a final stop. And I am sure that out of those 3 proposals, which is still keeping to my chest, is now I want to discuss here on the television, we must come to a conclusion to one. And I will take full responsibility for the outcome and then give specific timelines and deliverables, which we have to follow up with milestone. And within that period, I will call for calm, I will call for ceasefire, and also put on the other side to the thing. Give me 6 months. 3 months which will be before swearing in, and 3 months which will be after swearing in. And I will assign responsibilities to those people. You see, a criminal today could be a president tomorrow. A warlord today could be a minister of defense tomorrow. We've seen it around the world. I'll have to engage those people to be part of the solution. And honestly speaking, to a very large extent, we have gone very far. We're discussing and it's giving some good result. And the good thing also is that most of these moves and steps that I'm taking, we're also sharing with the relevant government agencies that are involved. So that's not just political talk, it's very practical. And also the result is also being seen in even the current situation that we have now in Anambra State. We are part of the team that is de-escalating the crisis and the tension. I can only just say that much for now, for the public.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Okonkwo. You have eventually refused to give us the magic bullet. You said it's close to your chest. Of course, that if you win the election, you will be able to lay that out. But again, from what you have pointed out, it does appear that you have full understanding of the security architecture of this country, and as a governor of a state, for instance, you don't have any powers with respect to the police. You don't have any control of the army. You don't have any control of any paramilitary organization in the country. But in any case, in the course of this program, we're going to get to that so that you can also let us know how this magic wand is going to work. For now, let's come back to our studio here in Abuja and speak with some other guests here. Dr. Ernest Dereke, Political Science Department, University of Abuja. You've been here for a while. You've listened to Dr. Okonkwo, and I'm sure you've been following the campaign trends, in Anambra State. And let's get your view of, what do you read, with respect to the election, which is coming up on Saturday.
Okay, first, thank you very much for having me, and then also to commend the candidate who just spoke. Because he mentioned something that I picked particular interest in, and that is the fact that he has a research team, within his campaign organization. That is commendable, and that is slightly different from what we are used to in the Nigerian political environment. Because candidates, politicians, aspirants will make wild promises without really any basis for those promises, and without telling you how those promises will be fulfilled eventually. But then to the issue is the fact that everybody in Nigeria is worried about the election on Saturday because of the heightened insecurity in the state. Already we are talking about a state where you have a very low turnout of voters during elections. And with the heightened insecurity, it will further worsen, voter apathy in the state. But there's something very, very dangerous in what the politicians and the aspirants are, beginning to think is that immediately after the elections, the insecurity, just disappears. And we heard that from Dr. Obiora Okonkwo, because they believe that yes, we have this insecurity as a result of the forthcoming elections. But from experience, we know that, for instance, when you arm people during elections, those arms are not mopped up after the elections. The people you have armed still keep those arms, and they use that to unsettle the peace in the society. So if anybody is thinking that once we conduct elections on Saturday, then Anambra reverts, back to its peaceful self, I think we are getting that wrong. And then also to say that the insecurity in Anambra is not just what somebody can say, once you elect me today, it is over. Because we know that there are internal and external, factors responsible for the insecurity in Anambra State. Now, it is more of a feeling by some group, a feeling of alienation from the general political environment within the society. a feeling of political exclusion, a feeling of deprivation, a feeling of marginalization. And then internally, people will also be talking about issues around the economy, issues around governance, issues around the general welfare and well-being of the people. So anybody who would solve the insecurity challenges in Anambra State is someone who will understand that there are external and these internal factors inducing insecurity within the state. And those internal and external factors have to be factored in and considered in fashioning out any solution to overcome the insecurity challenges that we have in Anambra State. And so just to re-emphasize the point that the election on Saturday will not mean the end of insecurity in Anambra State, because it is already entrenched, and it will take very serious thinking, it will take very serious efforts on the part of both people within and outside Anambra State to begin to, fashion out solution, to the insecurity challenges that we have in that state.
Dr. Erike, thank you very much. Let's bring in Alwal Musa Rafsanjani, who is chairman of the Transition Monitoring Group. Rafsanjani, what's your outlook on the Anambra election just 4 days away?
Yeah, well, so the situation in Anambra, like it's been said, is really very sad and unfortunate, because it is not a contest of idea. It is not about mobilizing people, based on issues to come out to vote for somebody that can help, lead or facilitate, solution to many of the problems that have been enumerated here and even outside this place. But you have a situation, even before now, Anambra used to be very, very tense when it comes to issue of election. Now, coupled with, numerous additional security challenges in the country, from both state and non-state actors, is going to be very difficult, thing. Already as I speak to you, Transition Monitoring Group and other groups were supposed to organize a debate with the Nigerian election debate, but because of the insecurity in Anambra, we simply have to, cancel it, because the debate is supposed to be, with the people, with the electorate and people who want to contest, to come and showcase their ideas, and then people can interrogate them, not just to talk, but also to really see what are they really putting in place, and how do we actually hold them accountable for the commitment they have made. But because of all this fear of both state and non-state actors, a lot of people are simply not going to show up. So, which means that if you have 2.5 registered voters in Anambra, and in normal situation before the emergence of this additional security threat, you are ending up with 500,000. You can imagine now how many people you are going to have, given the fact that there was no really campaign based on issues, and the emergence of non-state actor threat was not intense before, and with the federal government deploying, a lot of, security, both police, army, DSS, and what have you, already the people are scared. They are afraid. So you will not definitely even have that figure that you used to have, which is approximately 500,000. Because IPOF, before even the election, they have institutionalized sit at home every weekend. Every Monday. Now, with the declaration that they made that nobody should come out to vote, you can imagine if people are complying with the directive before the election. Now that they also emphasize that declaration, and with the deployment of the army, police, and all sorts of, security, people probably scaring the voters, you can imagine that you will not have that, percentage that we are talking about, because people are afraid. They are afraid of their lives. So the only thing that we can say in Anambra is that there's a balance of terror, not balance of ideas, not really, campaign issue. It is simply about, capturing the power for self-centered interests, not really for the people. And it is a reflection of what is going on in many parts of Nigeria. People come, talk sweet, say all sorts of promises, from the federal to the state to the local government. It is the same scenario. Now, after you even mobilize people, you get elected, the next minute you decamp to another party. So which means that all the things that you have said, you do not mean it, and you have betrayed the people that have supported you, only for you to move to another party without even consulting them. So that is why we think it is important that the situation in Anambra is taken very serious, because you are alienating the electorate from participating in the political process in Anambra. Because if they are not able to come out as a result of this, let me use the word, fear of being, intimidated or harassed or arrested or even killed, because you don't even know what will happen. Because if people insist to come out, some function of some politicians, their talks can also go to that extent, or even the IPOP themselves, and then of course the federal government might. So it is a really bad situation. Already Anambra used to have this, crisis. Now, with all this additional, threat and security might in the place, is going to be extremely difficult to have a credible, legitimate election outcome, because you cannot have 2,500,000 registered voters, and then you end up with 500,000. And if this election happens, and the way we are seeing things, if you end up having maybe 100,000 people who probably, because of the security guide that will guide them to go and perform the election, definitely there's a question of legitimacy. And it means that the people from Anambra have been deprived from peacefully electing their choice person. I think Nigerian state must be careful with the trend that is going on in this country. Because if Anambra situation go on like this, you have no guarantee that other states will also not follow, not only in the southeast, but also in other parts of the country. Because it is the same trend. The politicians simply use political party as a platform to capture power. And then, if they do not get that power, they'll go back and start plotting and create all this militia, all these groups that are now turning to something else. Politicians in Nigeria need to be very, very, very careful, because they are creating conditions for people to even lose their life and lose hope completely about even governance. And it is simply because of that reason, because Nigerians don't have confidence on many politicians. That is why you see they are actually not even participating in the political process. Because what is the point that you go in, you supported, a political party, and the person that won under that political party, 1 year after or 6 months, he had decamped to another party. So it is not about ideas. It is simply people using money, using violence, using, Abuja connection to get themselves.
Our Musa Rafsanjani, thank you, and you have raised very pertinent, points there, all pointing at the possibility of having a free and fair election in Anambra State. Let's return to Dr. Kunko once more. You've listened to our Musa Rafsanjani raising some very concerned issues with respect to this upcoming election. He talked about sit at home, which has become, in fact, synonymous with the southeast of Nigeria. I had to experience it one occasion, and I didn't feel good about staying home on a Monday. That this expectation that the IPOB might call sit at home on the election day. How are you going to react to that? And again, you have been on the campaign trail talking to Anambarians to vote for you, and that means you have been mobilizing people as well. Now, if there is any call for sit at home on Saturday, how do you intend to mobilize your supporters to come and vote for you? Because the point that Rafsanjani raised is pointing to the fact that there might be partial election in Anambra State. And I know also that you have had meetings with INEC officials, security agencies, and what have you, as to what will be done on Saturday to ensure that the election is conducted in that state.
Yes, thank you. Before then, let me just clarify some issues. My colleague, political scientist, who was the first to comment, I want to just clarify that when I was addressing security issues and approach to the solution, I identified 3 causes. I only attributed one to political situation where we are now. I mentioned those from agitation, and then those that are coming from poor economic situation and hopelessness. So, and when I say that, that's very practical. We cannot just entirely define our security issue with the current happenings. Let me have it for the records. Anambra is probably the only state in Nigeria that has never recorded any murder politically. We have never until this election. You might see very fierce political opponents trying to get whatever they want from any court in Nigeria in any way, civil, and our friends still piling. In fact, our colleagues from all over Nigeria do wonder, why is this happening in Anambra State? It is just simply because of our strong ethical infrastructure. It's a state where we have strong value for life, but obviously this is different. So this is just happening now. So when I say that there is one that is as a result of circumstance, believe me, there's no guess about it. And 90% of those who are participating in this because of political season, they are from outside Anambra State. So we expect them, when they finish the job they were given, they should move back to their state with their materials, as they should not be left behind. I know what I am saying, so I want you to trust and believe that. And on the issue of the external and the agitation, let me tell you, you see, if you have a leader that you have hope and confidence and trust in, when I say ceasefire and wait for me for 6 months, this is not just what I am dreaming of doing. This is what we have reached even an agreement of doing. And I can tell you also that relevant necessary security agencies are aware of this discussion. So it's not that hopeless. Nations have come out of war. Look at Rwanda, for instance. They picked their pieces from genocide and civil war 16, 17, 18 years ago. Today, they are the fastest growing economy in the whole world and the best destination for business and tourism. It's not that hopeless. I know the solution and I know the problems. So I will tell you guys to just pray that I emerge the governor. As of the sit at home, yes, it's been practiced here in this part of Nigeria. But I also know for a fact that every election day in the past has been sit at home. Election is one of the things actually that introduced sit at home in our life, which is from the eve of the election till 6 p.m. The election day. No movement of any sort is supposed to be allowed except those on official duties. So I think that people may be conversant with that, but obviously the fear and all that is expected to affect people. But people knowing that they must have to be part of this process to change the situation might even inspire more people who have never voted before. So my hope and my expectation is that no matter what the situation will be, that this election come and end successfully with a winner declared. And to the other analysts, sorry, my brother, I didn't get to know quite well. I do also not think that the number of voters that will come out will invalidate the election. No, because there's no part of the Constitution that stipulates that the minimum voter will be expected. Unfortunately, if you just have 10,000 people to vote, the result will be decided based on those number of voters, unfortunately. But except that it will be so sad that a good number of people would have been excluded from expressing themselves. Well, that's the circumstances we may find ourselves in. But we only just hope that the few that will come out, it should be fair. Because Anambra has been forced in many political issues in different ways. We are the first state that has a different election timetable for governorship. That's why we're having a governorship election outside the general election period. We don't want to be another state again in history that did not replace their governor when the tenure is over. Because the Constitution allows extension of the first instance of 3 months, another instance of 3 months. That in itself is to allow any form of vacuum. But we don't want to go into that kind of history again. We want to just get over with this, believing that the leadership will go into the right person. Let's pick our pieces, and I can assure you, it shouldn't be as bad as you think after the election.
Dr. Anambra State, thank you very much there for your explanation. But I was just wondering, could you properly contextualize it for our viewers? You say Anambra has been relatively peaceful and no instances of politically related murder or murder in the course of elections. But we do know that Anambra has indeed been a tinderbox since 1999. And if anything, Anambra has witnessed a number of volcanic eruptions. We recall, for instance, that the former chairman of the Onitsha branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, Barnabas Igwe, and his wife were murdered in cold blood. We also recall what happened when Ngige was governor. He was abducted, and there was an attempt at illegally removing him from office, plus all kinds of tensions that you also alluded to, usually on the eve of elections, and the cantankerous primaries that the various political parties had. Are you saying, for instance, that ahead of the elections, these are matters that do not really weigh on the minds of voters?
No, these are entirely a different case. We are referring to election-related murder. There has never been any time in Anambra State, never check the records, that there have been murder on an election-related issue. After election, and you have people fighting for the loot and then for their own economic interests, it's quite different from election. But we've had states where opponents are hacked down, they kill themselves because they want to get into power. So I am actually talking about different things. That's a crime committed for a different purpose and for different reasons. It's not election related. Check your records and the facts are available. So the murder of Igwe and his wife is interest related. It's not, has nothing to do with the election. And the burning down of the government house, kidnapping of Ngige, it's also battle for loot. People who had gone to war, though they say that it's even also amongst the chief that is also some honor. But these guys, they sold it to the air and started fighting death. That does not make it election related. This is the first time election is coming and we're having crisis. Nobody in history has just suffered that much before now. So I really think that we're in good records for that. And we hope and pray that it will never, this will never be our portion anymore. This should be the end of it.
Thank you, Dr. Okonkwo. I still want to stay with you. When outsiders, that's to say those who are not from Anambra, look into Anambra, there's some great fascination with Onitsha, for instance, which is a vast commercial city. We also go to the Nnewi axis, and that's an industrial area. And yet the commonest complaint has to do with infrastructure or just providing an enabling environment to give further boost to the entrepreneurial energy of India Anambra, as they are also referred to. What is it that you will do if you had the opportunity?
Thank you. You're absolutely right, but that problem is beyond infrastructure. Our research and funding has shown that we plunge into this problem with Nnewi and the Onitsha axis as a result of bad governance of ABGA for 16 years. Before Peter Obi's ABGA came to power, our records show from our research that we have about 60 industries that are functioning with full manufacturing capacity, employing people and paying their taxes. Those was the case until ABGA government of Peter Obi paid little or no attention to security, and then we started having issues of kidnapping. Remember, there was a very, very bad time for kidnapping and other criminalities in Anambra State. That period in time we're talking about, there were buyers for these products from all over Africa. They come from Congo, Sierra Leone, Liberia. They come in and do their businesses. Then these kidnappers and criminal elements started going after them. They will hack them down on their way to Anambra State. They go to their hotel, pick them up, and they stopped coming. When they stopped coming, the businesses started dwindling. They went after the business owners, kidnapping them, manning them, their families. They moved out of Anambra State. Today, unfortunately, I'm telling you sadly, that from our research, we just have about 6 functioning industries in the Nnewi. That period we're talking about, one of our illustrious son, Chisco, has on records that he would load 40 luxurious buses out of Nnewi every morning to different destinations. 40 luxurious buses, fully loaded. And today, as we stand, if you put one luxurious bus in Nnewi, he can't even get full. You see how bad that has become. And then with the Onitsha axis, the problem is that at some point, the same ABGA government started preaching some gospel as if being a trader is a crime, you know, and then with the bait of, and then most of these traders, this is what nobody would tell you, but this is what in-depth research has shown. Most of these Onitsha State traders at that point started investing all their money on bank shares. And then at the end of the day, you know what happened to the banks? The shares crumbled. They lost everything they've had. And these banks came after them, and their little assets were all, in so many ways, encumbered. That's a major aspect that nobody has come to know. But that's the result of our funding. That has affected that commerce. And beyond that, when I instituted the research with UNIZIC, the outcome of our research on the issue of apprenticeship, which we now call apprenticeship, is that our ethical infrastructure started decaying. Some of these young boys want to get rich quick. What we used to call a boy apprenticeship became no more a fashion. Nobody had patience to stay there for 5 years or 6 years to be dual owner, which is to be settled by his master. So all these things we have studied. The infrastructure is a thing that also is there and is important, but I guess that we have to build and solve these other problems. Today, these companies can't even resurrect themselves. The cost of capital for business is high, you know, and the source of loans are almost impossible. We have already a plan on how to bring life into these businesses. Government, we have to use the government cover to support a lot of things, guarantee and bring up the issues. And even in the apprenticeship, which would easily give 30 to 40% of our youth on the street job, we have come up with the research that we have to coordinate, remove the stigma of Eba boy, because it's no more fashionable Eba boy. So we've even codenamed it Nkwado Ogalanya, that is preparing for your wealth. So these are so many things we have found out what the problems are, and we have solutions. We're very practical in our approach to Anambra issue. And as much as possible, we're going to use like our colleagues talking there, we're going to use the knowledge-based institutions to support most of the things we are doing. We have cracked some of these problems. We have the dossiers, we have the files, and it might also interest you that we already have fairly good number of people in our team that are going to be part of the solution. These are great people with resource, knowledge, know-how, and exposure, and they're involved because I am at the center of it. That's saying if you become the governor, we're coming in with all we have, and I can tell you, it will be very, very miraculous. Look, we have solved this kind of problems in our own practical issue. Look, I am the first airline that emerged post-COVID. It's a very impossible period. It is difficult, but we emerged. So we know how to deal with impossible situation because as long as God is with us.
Dr. Kogwo, I'd like to appreciate you one more time, because my colleague and I, we just believe that you have a grasp of the issues in Anambra State, and we wish you well. When we return to you, I would like you to be specific about what you do to reverse the trend so that we begin to understand you, properly and specifically as it concerns, for instance, we talk about infrastructure, roads. How are you going to raise funds to construct roads? When it comes to other infrastructure, how are you going to practically do them? Because of course the money, the budget you get from the federal allocation will not be enough to do it. How would you now liaise, with the private sector in Anambra State to reverse the trend of infrastructure in that state? But that will be when we return to you. For now, we have a breaking news. The FCT Police Command confirms attack on University of Abuja staff quarters, Gariki, Giri rather, Abuja. 6 persons reportedly abducted. That's just coming in now. FCT Police Command confirming attack on University of Abuja staff quarters, Giri, Abuja. 6 persons reportedly abducted. All right, Dr. Ereke, do an analysis, of the postulations of Dr. Kongwo so far. I mean, he has shown that he is a true Anambrian in terms of understanding the facts on ground.
Well, again, there's no doubt in the fact that he has a grasp of the issues. Of course, aided by, he kept on making references to research, to his research team, and it means that they've done a good job at identifying these issues. But one thing I have not heard from him is the strategies that will be deployed, towards overcoming these challenges. He has talked about the apprenticeship system within the Southeast and how the challenges that have bedeviled that system. He has talked about entrepreneurship. He also talked about security challenges. And he feels very, very confident that he has a solution to the security challenges. And even though he has said he is keeping those solutions to chest because he doesn't want to let it out. But then one of the issues is that when you are going into elections, the people don't just want to hear that we have these challenges. The people don't just want to hear that you have identified their problems. The people want to know, how do you intend to solve these problems? What is it that you'll be doing differently? For instance, he has talked about how the APGA government has crumbled the productive industry and productive sector in Anambra State. Now, what will the ZLP party be doing differently from what APGA has been doing over the years? What is he going to do differently? Because he made reference to local government administration and how resources meant for local governments have been channeled to other uses. So what is he going to do differently? Anambra people want to hear what Dr. Obiora Okonkwo will do differently, to address some of these challenges. And so very well he has identified, the challenges, but the solution still remains the crux of the matter. And that is why we have, that is one of the interesting things about democracy, that we have choices from where we can choose. Where we can pick. But those choices have to be choices that are convincing enough. Choices that tell us that if you give me the opportunity to do this thing, I can do it differently. And this is how I will be doing it differently. For instance, the issues of infrastructure, and as you rightly pointed out, the funds that will be coming from the center to the state will not be enough, to address, for instance, the infrastructural decay in Anambra State. Where and how is he going to raise funds, to begin to address that issue of infrastructural challenge. So while I commend him for understanding the challenges in Anambra State, I also want to hear more from him. And I also believe that Anambra people want to hear from him. What is your blueprint? What is your strategy? How do you intend to overcome these challenges?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ereke. Well, we'll return to him in a short while. For now, let's take a short break. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, the conversation continues.
Well, the housing solution we have developed is a multifaceted one. First, we have tried to lead a program to build what we think will be an acceptable and hopefully affordable housing type based on surveys we did in 2015-2016 and construction that started in 2017. And that's going on in 34 states as the National Housing Program.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Dear compatriots, our country can be as great as we want.
Let us all commit ourselves to its greatness.
We must be willing to set aside our differences, unite and stay as one.
In our expansive landmass, human and material resources, and plurality lies our strength.
Let our challenges lead us to rediscover our common ground, and together, let's find solutions.
This will take some time, so it requires patience, tolerance, and forgiveness from every one of us.
Let all hands come on deck to protect and transform our country.
Let us unite and see each other not as adversaries, but as brothers and sisters.
Together, we can build a better Nigeria for ourselves and for the next generations.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA, with support from Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Chelsea will be hoping to continue a hat-trick of victories against teams in the relegation zones when they welcome Burnley to Stamford Bridge. Will they succeed this Saturday? It's Chelsea versus Burnley on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 2:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Baba Ijebu and powered by Integral.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have all our three guests. That's Dr. Obiora Okonkwo, who is candidate of the Zenith Labour Party in the Anambra governorship election on Saturday, Ernest Tereke of Political Science Department, University of Abuja, and Awal Rafsanjani, who is chairman of the Transition Monitoring Group. Well, Rafsanjani, we've had you in the past in discussing elections, all cycle of general elections. How challenging has it been for your Transition Monitoring Group preparing to observe and monitor this election that some have described as a litmus test of what to expect in other off-cycle elections or perhaps in 2023?
Transition Monitoring Group, TMG, and many other civil society groups in Nigeria who want to observe the election in Anambra, they are finding it extremely difficult because of the difficult environment that these organizations and its members are facing. As a non-violent advocacy organizations that want to ensure that the election are free, fair, and credible, we are finding it extremely difficult to measure those things, because it's not that TMG is observing the election day. It is a process that TMG and many civil society organizations are interested, even from the party primaries. And you know what happened in the party primaries too. Some of the results ended up litigation. Some, of course, it was even a physical fight, and some, of course, it is monetization, of the whole process. So, Transition Monitoring Group has been monitoring and documenting instances in Anambra prior to this coming election over the weekend. And of course, ever since then, we've been working towards ensuring that voters are highly mobilized, sensitized, conscientized, to be able to come out and elect their choice persons based on issues, not based on how much money people are giving. So TMG has been discouraging money politics, both buying and thuggery, as well as violence generally. So we've been engaging a lot of a number of people and encouraging them to come out and elect their the political parties they wish to see succeeding in Anambra. But because of these inherent challenges and threats from both security and non-security, is extremely difficult, to the extent that our observers, many of them, are simply unable to perform that duty now because of fear of being molested or killed by both non-state actors and even state actors. When you see the number of policemen, the army, the DSS, and other security operatives that have been deployed to Anambra, that alone can scare you. If you see the real, actualization of the threat by IPOP, it is a whole big threat that will, not only demoralize you, but will also send a serious warning to you that if you go out, then you meet their Waterloo there. So voters who wish to have a change or to come and exercise their fundamental right have been already, ambushed. Secondly, the observers who want to observe and ensure that the process is free, fair, credible, and the outcome is legitimate, they are also being ambushed. So we are dealing with a situation whereby there will be election between the security, probably the security people, and the ghost, and some few of them who are having well, protected, security men and women around them. Otherwise, I tell you, if this election is about the people of Anambra, already the people have been deprived because of all these conditions that is becoming totally uncontrollable, as a result of the real security threat by state and non-state actors. So I think, the Anambra election if it goes the way it is, I still insist that if we did not get reasonable number of voters, there will be question of alienation of the voters. There will be question of legitimacy of that process, because it's not enough just to, for example, you have 2,500,000 voters and then you have 5,000 or 10,000 people. I mean, you too, you will know that something is wrong, and as a leader, you will not really say, you know, people have elected you, honestly. So I think it is important that we conceptualize and create. They have fine ideas, but these ideas I expected for the interest of Anambra State. All of them, they should come together, remove their, ego, remove their, money, power, because apparently this election in Anambra, it is also about money. It is also about powerful, rich men that have money that can actually turn back that Anambra to London again. But unfortunately, sadly, there's no that unity or purpose of development agenda in Anambra. What I see clearly is individual who want to just take that state, and not because they want to make money probably, but just to ascertain power, to have control. I think if we continue with this trend, the democracy will continue to suffer negatively in Nigeria.
Our Musa Rafsanjani, I can really share, in your thoughts. I can't really agree less with your explanations. Dr. Kungwa, you appear to be very optimistic, when it comes to the issue of voter turnout for this particular election. And Rafsanjani here has a number of times raised the issue of apprehension, which of course the voters will be facing on the election day, considering the huge number of security operatives who are going to be operating in Anambra State. I also now know that most of the monitoring organizations have withdrawn from Anambra, and new ones are being trained, and there's no time to the election. We just have a few days to the election and what have you. But that's just by the way. To be specific now, talk about your strategies to change the course of history of Anambra State with respect to infrastructure. How do you go about funding your project? What are the strategies in place that will enable you to fund your administration in terms of infrastructure, education, health, and other aspects of human endeavor?
Yes. I think that by life and nature, I am a very, very optimistic person. And if you recollect at the beginning of this, I had expressed my apprehension and concern. Can you hear me?
Go ahead,
Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I can't see you. I have expressed my apprehension and concern the same way our brother, the observer, has said. But again, notwithstanding, I've also seen society who are in this kind of a situation, but it became a propeller. It propelled them to defy all odds and go to the polls to choose their leader. Things doesn't have to really be normal for changes to happen. As the other issue that you may not know is that I don't care attitude in our civil responsibilities is also part of our problem here. We seem to be individually comfortable and okay in our little space, and we leave the most important thing about what seems to be known about how you live, which is governance. We leave it in the hands of mediocres. Okay, so I think that is part of the blame. We have to also blame ourselves, even with the case of IPOB that is threatening. In one of my engagements, I told them, if you want a change, you can start from Anambra State. Go register. It might interest you to know that IPOB indeed had registration. They registered in their droves and they wanted to vote in the governor of their choice. there are things you may not know that we know. So when I talk about this, it is just coming from a deep knowledge of the situation. But that's by the way. Dr. Nweke, at the beginning of my own introduction, I had consistently said for the past 2 years that Anambra is in economic comatose, and we're going to bring in a shock therapy. And this shock therapy is coming from direct foreign investment. And they enumerated from the beginning on this studio that this direct foreign investment is nothing less than 10 billion US dollar, which is coming from Russia. It's going to go into road infrastructure. It's going to go into facilities. It's going to go into industrialization, industrial cluster, digital technology industries, and so on and so forth. It's going to go into new town developments and all that. We've said this from the beginning, so it is really not the case that we don't know what's. Look, I am a private businessman, and I'm bringing in private business experience into governance. Before I embarked on this journey, I had made a proper need assessment of the state. And I had also looked back to look for solution, even before embarking on it. Just like you want to do a project, you do your visibility studies, you check out your fundings, you do your SWOT analysis. And if you have to invest your money, you have to be sure that the project has to be completed and the profits and the outcome will be viable. So this is my case in this thing. Before I even said I was going to run, I've cleared all this and sorted it out. I had said, committed, a number of people know me, they've heard about me, and all my saying. I'm the one who has written a personal commitment letter to a number of people, which is out there, that I'm going to conduct local government election in 6 months if the law permits, and then with maximum of 12 months. We wrote it and signed it with my deputy, because we know all this cry about roads is really not a big deal. Look, you know, there is a saying in Igbo language that any town that is so far, just like they say, no matter how far a town, if you say Alaska is far, if you say Siberia is far from the rest of the world, there is a next town to it. It's a matter of the ability to solve problems. We have said that with most of these roads we are crying about today started with a little crack, a little pothole, and nobody is attending to it because we have not had local government administration for decades. If you do local government election, you put them there and they'll be solving some of these rural issues. We've said again, we're going to set up a standby road maintenance agency. We're going to involve special funding to recover some of the roads that are beyond the capacities of local government. I don't want to be dragged into the evaluation and assessment of road as a yardstick. For me, by the time we finish, road should not even, we'll be doing bigger projects and other people will be taking care of roads. What's about road? People, communities have been building roads. Individuals are building roads in Anambra State. And what is this? You just have people who neglected and abandoned their responsibilities. We will recover these things. I don't say that, and my focus is industrialization. My focus is skill engagement. In terms of training, my Anambra people know, and I'm representing it in this studio, I've signed MOU with Celestial Fathers of John Bosco. Celestial Fathers of John Bosco are renowned all over the world for their technical education. They are one of the best polytechnics around the world, from university, from USA, Germany. They have trained in the last 5 years over 500,000 Indian youths. And these Indian youths, 70% of them are export workers. We've signed this MOU. We're very practical in everything we're doing. They're coming to overhaul our academic infrastructure. They're coming to overhaul our curriculum. And I've started even with them in my own individual capacity in my hometown, where they're transforming a boys' school into a polytechnic. There'll be 6 months program that will be, yeah.
Dr. Okonkwo, let's interject because we are pressed for time now. And I want to give you the opportunity to also take the question before we come back to our guest here, so you could proceed your response. We have seen a lot of litigation, pre-election, on account of the cantankerous primaries. And we also know from our national experience that when after elections are conducted and results are announced, there is a tendency for the losers to reject the results. Under what conditions would they accept the outcome of Saturday's election?
Well, talking about litigation, I know enough to tell you authoritatively that the three major political parties are not in this race. If you look at the gamut of litigations, challenging not only the primaries, but their nomination process, these cases are in court, and obviously whenever they end, it will not end well. If, God forbid, any of them will win the election, you will see the case of Bayelsa and the case of Zamfara. You put it for the record. So I'm not bothered about it. But for me, I am in this, like I was telling you before. I'm a businessman. I am very busy. I am here taking risks, dodging bullets, exposing myself at the expense of so many things. I wouldn't be here doing all these things, if making all these sacrifices, if I am not just looking for opportunity to leave the right legacy. It's not the legacy of airport or event center. The so-called event center in Anambra State is less than investment I made in Abuja when I was 35 years old. We're talking about 20 years ago as a young man. The place is called the Dome. It's still there for everybody to see. I want to leave a legacy like the MI Opala, the University of Nigeria, and Soka, the industrial layout, the fastest growing economy in the world. I want to recover the entire Southeast side as economic union. I want to integrate this the South 5-state Southeast economy. So now for me, if the election is over, it is free and it is fair, obviously I will accept the result. So I mean, there's no way about it. But if you have facts that there are some things that are unacceptable, obviously the legal department will evaluate it, and if they see any need to continue action, why not? After all, judiciary has become part of our electioneering process. Good election cases are finally determined in the judiciary. So you should talk about INEC, you should talk about judiciary. It's not out of place. But for me, when I lost the primary in Anambra State, which it was clear day robbery, I walked away. I'm not desperate. I believe that if this power is not given to me by God, I don't need it. That's why I don't need any godfather. Look around. I am one person who do not have any godfather. I don't need it. I don't want to be made by man. I want to be, if it pleases God, and for me to be governor. Otherwise, I can walk away the next day. I'm going into my my management meeting. I'm going concerned that it's profitable.
All right,
so,
Doctor.
Unlike some of my colleagues who are jobless and just looking for a place to pitch and fix themselves.
We understand you have no godfather, so perhaps you are
the godfather
you are godfather yourself. So we'd like to thank you and appreciate your time, and of course thank you for sharing your time with us this morning, and of course we've also given you the opportunity to talk to Anambrians on the very lofty ideas that you have for the development of the state. We'd like to once again appreciate you for coming on this program. Tomorrow we're expecting to have other candidates like ABGA and of course PDP to also talk to us on this platform with respect to the Anambra State elections coming up on Saturday. And so let's also appreciate other guests. Our Musarraf Sanjani, Chairman, Transition Monitoring Group, TMG. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning.
Thank you very much.
And of course, Dr. Ernest Tereke, Political Science Department, University of Abuja. It's also been wonderful talking to you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Next is sports.
Head coach Gubernatorial has listed Odion Igalo, Wilfred Ndidi and 22 others for Super Eagles closing Group C games of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 qualifiers against Liberia and Cape Verde this month. The list was officially released on Monday by the Nigeria Football Federation. The Super Eagles will tackle the Leon Stars of Liberia at the Grand Stade Tangier in Morocco on Saturday 13th November and then flying to Lagos for the final group game against Cape Verde's Blue Sharks at the Teslim Balogun Stadium on Tuesday, 16th November. Raw has this time extended the invitation to 2019 Africa Cup of Nations top scorer Igalo, who announced his retirement from the international game following that AFCON feat in Egypt. Leicester City of England's midfield enforcer Ndidi, who missed the last round of games home and away against Central African Republic, is back in the team, just as fellow Premier League star Alex Iwobi and Spain-based forward Samuel Chukwueze. Also listed for the crucial games are regulars like skipper Ahmed Musa, Leon Balogun, William Troost Ekong, Kelechi Iheanacho, Moses Simon, Maduka Okoye, and Chidera Ejuke. Meanwhile, Hungary fans have been banned from their World Cup qualifier in Poland after clashing with police during October's draw with England at Wembley. Metropolitan Police said minor disorder broke out as a fan was arrested for a racially aggravated public order offence after comments were directed towards a steward. FIFA confirmed Hungary must play in Poland without fans on 15th November. The Hungarian Federation has also been fined 75,000 Swiss francs. FIFA strongly condemned the actions of the Hungary fans in this latest incident.
All right, so that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for tuning in. Join us again tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Until then, look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umar. Do have a great Tuesday.